This is The Stash, and you're listening to the Business Bottom Line podcast, coming to you from the Jewel City of the Mountains, Greenville, Tennessee. We're in the foothills of the Smokies, talking business with people just like you who are responsible for the bottom line, sharing business tips to inspire, inform, and improve, and turn your bottom line from red to black. And today we got a special guest with us, Mr. Nick Gunter of Gunter Construction Incorporated, and we're going to get acquainted. So, Nick, tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a formal intro.
Yeah, my name is Nick Gunter. I live in the Otway community here in Greene County. I'm president of Gunter Construction. I'm an avid real estate investor, and I'm a music minister at my church. And I have fun with every one of those things. But on a day-to-day basis, I do construction.
Right. You build it from the ground to the top.
From
right?
my ground up, anything in it.
everything
in it, from the ground to the roof, yeah. We do everything from commercial building. We erect the buildings. We also do the electrical systems, the mechanical systems, the plumbing systems, and everything in between.
Tell us kind of how you got started in that, Nick. Where did it come from?
Well, honestly, as a young kid, my dad done heat and air conditioning, and I started gaining interest in doing that. And after so long, I decided I really liked how that was going, and I thought a little bit about being a mechanical engineer and doing mechanics and things like that, because I was heating and ventilation and things like that, hydronics and stuff really intrigued me. Mm-hmm. So through high school, I kind of got into metals manufacturing, and eventually apprenticed, and one thing led to another, and here we are today.
Here you are.
Yeah, 20 years later. So,
well, I know you've been through many different parts of the construction business, so you know it inside and out.
Oh yes. I've been going on right now about 24 years from the first day I stepped on the construction site. So.
That's a whole career for a lot of people. Don't do anything for 24 years.
Yes.
You know?
It sure is. It sure is.
Well, I'm going to ask you a silly question that don't have nothing to do with that. Are you an Android or an iPhone guy?
I love that question. Everybody asks that. I think personally it's the opinion for most people. But I've actually got to compare both of those side by side. Yeah, I used to work for a company, and they provided me with a really nice Android device, and at the same time I had a slightly older iPhone. And the one thing I found was, I was used to the iPhone, so I gave the edge to the iPhone. But the download speeds of the iPhone were better on my older device than they was on my newer Android. So in the field, the two main reasons was download times for me to go with the iPhone was the download times and the camera. I use the camera a lot. Yeah. And a lot of things to do reports and to see stuff and send it to vendors and things of that nature. Yeah. So I lean a little bit more towards the iPhone.
Yeah, and it's funny because most people started one or the other for a reason like that. And once you get into it, it's hard to change.
It's hard to change in midstream. But now when it goes to regular computers, I'm more of a Microsoft, Windows guy rather than Apple.
I see. Most of the friends I have that are Apple on the computer side do a lot of graphics and things like that.
Yeah, recording and things like that. Now, when it comes to that, they are seamless. Video editing, it's hard to beat a Mac.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Well, tell us something about your family.
Well, I can say God's been good to me. I've got a wonderful family. I've been married to Andy Gunter for 18 years. She is literally my better half. She's extremely intelligent. She currently has her EDS. She works for the Greenville City School System as a educational coach. So, which means she helps new teachers and brings them along and stuff, which is a really good thing. I've got an 8-year-old boy named Baze. He came with me today. I think he's extremely smart for his age. I don't know where he gets it at, so it must be his mom. It ain't me. And then I've got a 2-year-old baby girl, Lila Grace, and she's a little feisty, but gosh, we love her.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Go ahead.
I don't think I've got to meet her yet.
No, probably not. I haven't had her in here because she would be. Baze is the type of kid, you could tell him to stop somewhere and he'd stop. Lila's the type of kid you tell her to stop and she's somewhere else as soon as you turn your head. So
it's amazing how they have their own personality, don't they?
They really do. They really do. Yes,
and that'll be true when they're grown. You raise two in the same household, they'll be individual people.
They are
in many, many ways.
I can see that right now in both of them. But, like I said, God's been good to me. I love them. I love my family.
Yeah, well, family's a picture of God's relationship with us, and so it's good. I've always said it's either the best things in the world, or if it's not, it's bad.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
But we won't get off on that tangent.
No,
now.
that's okay. We'll do another podcast.
We'll do another
on
podcast
family.
on family.
Yeah,
we may have to do that.
Yeah, we'll do another.
And we'll have Lila here for that one.
Yeah, we'll have it on that. Yeah, that'll be good.
Well, tell me if you have a favorite book or something you've read recently that's just really been,
I have several favorite books, but the one that sticks out the most to me, I love the Bible.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites, and I always learn something new daily. I love the Proverbs, all the Gospels and Paul's writings, and there's lots to learn. And I gauge all my decisions based on that. But recently, I read a book by Ken McElroy. It's the ABCs of Real Estate Investing, because as I said earlier, I really enjoy investing in real estate aside from business. And it was a really good read, and I read that book and I really enjoyed it, and that's the latest one I've read. But
Okay.
I've got several books. I
That's
really
interesting.
like them.
Do you have like a goal that you read so many books a year, or?
Well, I read a lot of books that I think can help me business wise or help me through everyday life and things like that. So I now that we've got things like Audible and things like we were discussing earlier, it's great. I can go down the road and listen to a book, or when you can't seem to find time, because I find books help a ton in business, knowing history, finding relationships between now and then, because history repeats itself.
Yes,
a
it
lot.
does.
It really does.
It does, yeah. And none of us know all we need to know. So when you can get good counsel, and that's a biblical principle too,
Yes, it is.
getting good counsel, then it helps to learn from other people's business successes and mistakes. And that's kind of undergirding why I even started this podcast, because I wanted people to be able to learn from others in business and help them be more successful, either already started or if they're new, because there's a lot of new businesses starting today.
Yeah, that brings me back on Proverbs. We typically talk about that because Proverbs says, in the counsel of many there's safety. So I've always relied on that heavily. That a man's not an island. He needs a team. He needs a team of folks around him to help gauge what he does and how he does. And I always think that's a good way. I always said this. At the end of, we go to the gospel. It's another biblical principle. We go to the end of the gospel, and Peter seen how building a team was important. So that was his first sign of business after Jesus had died and after he went up into heaven, was to find a viable replacement for Judas. And that was the very first action thing, to make sure their team was together. So, you can find all kinds of things that will help you in business, even from Bible, other books, and how they all relate, when you start getting into it.
Well, I talk about it this way. When things are just a fact and pure, that's God principles.
It is.
Because it doesn't matter whether you believe or not. It's true and it works.
It's true, yes.
And the principles that's good in business are good in life. It's not like different set.
No,
it's just good principles work in your life and in your business as well.
It really does.
Because really in business, no matter what you're doing, if you're just making widgets, you got to have a relationship with somebody.
You got
to make them and to sell them and service them or whatever,
That's exactly
So
right.
it comes back to relationships, and that's really important.
That's exactly right.
Well, I know that you only work maybe 10, 12 hours a week. So tell us what you do in your hobbies and your spare time.
Man, I wish that were true. There's two things I love. I really just love doing, and that's I love playing music. I love doing things with music, and more than anything, I love traveling and spending time with my family. So I guess if I could pick one thing I would be doing right now, it'd probably be in the Caribbean, writing a song on the beach with my family as they played in the water, which
Wow.
I think it would be.
Now that's a good picture.
That would be a good picture, right?
Yes, I
kind
agree
of
with that.
bring it all together, you know. So,
So now you make music. What? And you said you're a song leader, worship leader at church.
I'm worship leader at church. Yes.
Okay. So what's your instrument or instruments? That
So
you play?
I've played. I play the guitar, the bass, the drums, mandolin. I play several different things.
Wow.
Yeah. See, remember I told you earlier I got onto the mechanical engineering field.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really, the reason I didn't go into that was because I started trying to move more toward being a professional musician as I was in high school.
Okay.
So I had a few career path opened up for me. I got to travel and pick bluegrass music for a year when I was 17-year-old on the road.
How fascinating.
Yeah, so it really, but you know, as old saying goes, music is chicken or feathers. So
Yeah, that's true.
there's no middle class in music. You know, you're either flying away or you're on the bottom. So.
That is true, and in most cases, a lot more feathers than chicken.
Yeah, a lot of feathers.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you do. Let's talk a little bit about your business. Like, what's it like being you? We talked some about how you got started in the business, but what does a day look like for Nick Gunter?
Well, you know, it changes. I figured out early on in life that working for someone else, I really felt more like an entrepreneur rather than actually being a guy that was on the payroll. So because I knew that I enjoy challenges, I don't like something that's repetitive, and I always enjoy a challenge. So a day, you know, really, a day that in my book would be, I get up, I get the kids ready, me and my wife does. I touch base with my project supervisor, which, like I said, I do construction. And then after that starts off, then we start solving problems, because if you say your business has no problems, you've not been in business very long. I typically start my day off after that with office work, HR, bids, payroll accounts, things like that. Yeah. And then after I get that done, I go to the on-site things, which sometimes include having to work. And then after that's all said and done, I start laying out the next day's duties, ordering parts, and trying to be home by 5 for the family. That's typically what a day looks like in a nutshell for me. Okay. I know that was a lot in a little bit.
That is a lot, but it's filled with a lot of different details. And, you know, a lot of those things as a business owner, people that either don't think like you and an entrepreneur, or that just work for the other guy, so to speak, don't realize all that work that has to be done behind the scenes in order to make the other stuff that is seen happen.
That's exactly right. I figured out a long time ago that knowing what you're doing in business, just for example, I really started out in heating and air. And the more I got into business as a general, as being a business, I learned that was really, my knowledge in heat and air was really only about 35 to 40% of what it was to be a heat and air business. You know, so because there's a whole nother 65, 70% that has a whole nother aspect to it.
Yes. You know, that's why many people go into business and fail, is because they may be really good at heat and air, at piping, at plumbing, or even electrical.
Yes.
That doesn't necessarily transfer into running a business,
No,
does it?
it does not.
Now, you need to know those skills and the technical part of that.
You've got to know them. And I always say this, you've got to know enough, and you've got to know enough about the trade to be efficient and make money at it. But that's just the beginning. Then you've got to know how to run the business as a whole and make a profit. Because at the end of the day, you know, I'm a corporation. We're a corporation. We're a for-profit corporation. We're not a non-profit. We're a for-profit. So at the end of the day, you have to make a profit.
Yes.
If you don't make a profit, you will not be. I don't care how good you are. You won't be in business long.
Yeah, that's true. I have a friend that owns an agency over in Franklin. he always introduces himself as owning a small nonprofit over in Franklin, Tennessee. And of course, with a big smile. But the profit has to come, and it's not a bad word or anything, as some people think. And of course, people that aren't in business and watch that, they see maybe you, quote, taking in money, and they think you keep all that.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't realize all the expenses that happen, and all those expenses have to be met. And then what's left is what you take home as the owner.
That's exactly it. Whatever's left. And sometimes, and trust me, most of the time, if something goes over budget or something, it's not the other bills have to be made. Mm-hmm. But the owner's profit is the very first thing that gets hit.
That's right.
So, if you're running a 15% profit margin on any project, and you go over 15%, something else, you've lost. I mean, it's
and
over.
all the effort and work it's gone.
It's gone.
It would have been just like you never did anything, but you spent all that time.
Yeah. And I've always battled that in my mind. I mean, I'll be honest with you, because I think this will help folks getting into business. It's really hard as a person, and because as a Christian and things, I've often thought that I try to help folks and I try to do stuff, but at the end of the day, I have to profit on my business. Now I can make good profit, and I can give it to my local ministry, and they can divvy it out in the community, which that's really the biblical principle there. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So I learned very hard and very early in business. You can't run your business as a nonprofit if you're doing for profits, because trust me, if people think they can get something cheap, and they'll take advantage of that.
Well, they will, because they may not understand the principle at all. And once you have people depending on you, I'm talking about staff, workers, tradesmen, whatever they are that are depending on you, then you start to have a responsibility for them and their family. And so how you run your business impacts more than just your own pleasure money.
That's exactly right.
It's a big deal.
It really is. And that's the thing when running your own business. Like I said, I went over those briefly, but there's a lot to that. There's a lot to I always said, get you a good accountant. That really helps, and try to learn things. Watch every dime. It really helps.
Yeah, it does. Know where things are, what costs are, and accounting for all of that in detail enables you to make decisions that affect the outcome. Mm-hmm. If you don't know what's happened, you don't know what decision to make. You
don't know where to be at.
Yeah. So, tell us what and this is not in your notes, so I'm throwing you a little bit of a curve here, but tell us what a prospective client for you, in other words, who would need you to build or work for them? If you were looking out, now I know you build houses and then sell those houses for profit. So you don't always have an owner that's there waiting.
Correct.
So give us a little bit about your business model. In other words, who is your client when you're building a house?
Well, and this goes back to me and my thing with numbers. So I've really just built houses for myself,
okay.
and from now on. But typically, right now, if I do build one for someone else, we go to more of a model like a cost plus. I haven't really been advertising. I've been a word of mouth guy my whole life. I've had a lot of folks get in touch with me and have me to try to bid them a house or build a house. But it really, I guess if I had to pick a target group that I would really look at, we still really try to push a little bit on the mechanical side and electrical side for little commercial things and stuff. But then as I said earlier, I'm more the real estate guy.
Yeah.
And so I build the houses through my company for me personally.
So you're taking more of a developer approach, really.
Correct. Yeah. So I've kind of turned in this economy and been more the developer, trying to sell while the market's doing well, and kind of falling back on some of my other things.
Okay. Interesting. So, tell us what a big challenge is for you in your work. Is it people? Is it technology? Is it competition? What's the big challenge out there? 22's coming up soon, and I know you've already been planning and thinking about it. So, what is that for you?
I think it's a little bit of all three of those. First thing is people, employment. We've hit something this year that I don't think I'd ever hit, and that is the fact that it's really hard just to find somebody to work, and it and I don't know why it is, why people's not working like they should, but it seems to be a systematic thing. So that's and customers too. I've also noticed that folks in general are getting a little bit more savvy on. You're seeing a lot more like people stealing people's identity and things of that nature, and people's more apt to take you to court now and anything else. So, it's just trying your best to fit into that and keep people happy is a challenge. The technology keeps evolving, especially in heat and air. I mean, we went from old analog controls to now we've got communicating boards with each other like PCMs and things. So it's all computer. So you constantly have to have an evolving education on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. And competition. There's two modes of competition. Probably is the biggest thing for us. There's folks who we call do things under the table.
Okay.
And so I like to talk about that too because that really hurts somebody like me. That's a state licensed contractor. Mm-hmm. Because I have to report everything.
Yes.
So of course they can do something cheaper than me. So I mean I ain't gonna lie about it, but I'm doing it legitimately. And then you also got the large corporations who can afford to spend millions to make 1,000, and that's not me. So those things are a little are all a challenge. That's a mouthful, I know.
No. Well, no, but the things. Excuse me.
You're fine.
You got me all choked up.
I know that's a rough. It's rough, especially that time.
It is a lot of challenges, and but whatever business you're in, understanding the challenges helps you plan.
Well, and I was
prepare.
I was thought you was mentioning the 2022. I've been looking at a lot of things. I'm a numbers guy, so. I like to look in depth at the numbers, and I like to look at inflation. I like to look at how things are going, the markets around the country, and because we're just looking at a very unique time in our history. I was talking about this the other day, price of materials and availability of materials.
Yeah.
I was giving quotes upon the basis of 5% increases. For 20 years in business, it's averaged out annual 5% increase in materials. And in 2020, I bid a job in 2019. December 2019, I started on it in May of 2020. By the time I got to a certain point, I'd already had the firm bid on it. Some material had went up 1,000%. I mean, it was ridiculous. My framing package, everything. And here's just a real good basis. Typically we take a framing package. I was actually doing this for a homeowner. A framing package runs around 10 to 15% of our total cost of a job. And, when you increase that 300-fold, 300% 3 times, you've got problems.
Yeah, and you still got the same building when you get done.
That's right. Yeah. And so we hit that. We recovered from that, but it was hard. We took a pretty good hit last year because of COVID and everything. So, so it takes some constant studying.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
It really does.
So if you was going to say what you do, how does that help people, help others? How would you describe that?
Well, if I try to provide, I always wanted to be an employer to help folks find work and find jobs. So I help a lot of, I feel good that I can go into someone's house, or I can go do a service call or fix somebody's electrical panel or fix an issue. I always feel good about that, knowing that we're doing it right and helping that person out and being fair. We're fair priced about that stuff. I also love the fact, like I said, of employing people. I've always had a heart to try to help folks, and because I've always thought if a man don't work, he don't eat. So, if I can give somebody a chance, an opportunity to work, and it helps me too, it's kind of a win-win, and just to be a positive light, in the community.
Yeah.
I try to give. We try to use, we try to tithe off our earnings and things like that, which, helps in all different kinds of things. So that's how I help others and people.
Okay. Well, do you have any particular insight on how you see your building unfolding in the future? I know we talked a little bit about looking toward 22. Is there any shifts coming, or you feel like your business model is going to be on track for the new year?
Well, we've changed a few things going into 20. I'm looking more into. We're looking more into pushing maybe a little bit more on the commercial, getting established a little bit more on maybe commercial, mechanical, and electrical projects. We set a goal to get about 4 or 5 pretty good sizable projects this year in that arena. It's and going from years past in 2008 coming to now, I feel like that may be the safe bet right now, because there's a lot of need for that right now. Folks are having a hard time finding people to do those roles and things. So
absolutely.
So we're trying to. I'm really wanting to push the commercial aspect a little bit more than residential this year, just to try to. I think it'll be better off for us, especially looking at when I seen what the Feds was doing day before yesterday. Increasing, going to stop with the low end. The low rate of financing for folks on their homes.
Yeah.
Of course, that's going to drive down home sales.
That's going to change.
It's going to change all that.
No question.
We've got to diversify, or we'll be left sitting.
And that's just what I was thinking. You're really describing a diversification process. And it kind of goes back to the old principle: don't put all your eggs in one basket. No. So, and that's still an important principle even today, and that's really what you're describing.
It really is, because I've learned in the past you can go broke. Economies change, things change, and you have to be kind of on the. And folks' debt's rising in the nation, and we've got extremely cheap money right now, and it's. You've got to look in the future. That's not going to happen. We can't maintain that.
Right.
So we've got. I've been learning to. Sometimes you've got to diversify a little bit. You can strike while the iron's hot, as the old saying goes. But also you got to prepare the forge. So you got to be sure that. I've just seen trends. When the economy goes down, trends when it just comes back up, when it goes back down. I'm starting to see a few more trends like I did in 2007 and 8 that are similar now.
Yeah. Well, being sensitive to it and recognizing those changes is part of the planning, even if you don't have a detailed plan. As you see that emerging, then you're able to move, and it's one of the things that small business is much better at doing, at changing and adjusting direction versus a large company. So it's a strength we have in the small business world for us to be able to do that.
Yeah, and we've had a pretty good 2 years, as far as I incorporated about 2 years ago, and looking over the books, it's amazing some of the things that you thought was making you the most money is not doing as well as you'd once thought. So, and the things that you thought was not doing as well, or is doing a little bit better than the ones you thought was doing well.
Yeah.
So it's an odd thing sometimes. So.
And that's a good argument for paying attention to the details and keeping good records.
That's exactly.
And you know where to change and how to change.
Yeah.
To continue improving. Well, give us your best business bottom line tip. That's our purpose.
Wow,
here now.
That's a good tip.
You got to give us a really good one, Nick,
okay,
so that somebody listening can actually do this, and it's going to help.
Well, if I had one tip, here's what I could say: know your business, and I'm just not talking about how to do what you're doing for a living. I'm talking about know your business, know your accounts, your bookkeeping. find the right entity for your business, learn your taxes, learn all the other stuff, become an expert at it, learn your risk, like with you helping with insurance, learn all that stuff that's associated with your business, because honestly, that's a huge majority of it that people miss. They may be good at that one thing, but they miss the other 60-some%. So I say, just know your business, do the research, find books. There are so many books on running businesses now. I mean, I'm a simple-minded person, but just watch the numbers, know your business, know your numbers, know where your money's going, And I'm telling you, it'll surprise you sometimes, because what you think in your mind, just like we were talking, it'll probably change, And I've seen it. I've come out of the red into the black, I've seen where I've threw away massive amounts of money that I thought I was making money.
Yeah.
So I've learned that the hard way. So just remember that. Know your business, and don't try, know it yourself inside and out. Mm-hmm. It'll really help you.
Yeah. That's a great tip. Well, that's a wrap for today's Business Bottom Line podcast. Take that tip and make your bottom line turn from red to black. And we'll see you right here next week for the Business Bottom Line podcast, coming to you from the Jewel City of the Mountains, Greenville, Tennessee. This is Thash saying we're here to inspire, inform, and improve your bottom line so you can grow, and grow.